The world is changing. We're in a very different time. We see that change in the political realm. The Maori economy is waking up. It's becoming more sophisticated. Our businesses and our enterprises are becoming forces to be reckoned with. The political world and landscape is changing globally and in this country. Maori are rising into those roles. Indigenous culture is starting to be acknowledged and recognised as having the keys that will unlock the future for humanity, because we think differently, we act differently, we have values that encompass our environment and our communities. These are the solutions that the world needs.
Eke Poutama is a program to help equip rangatahi with tools, knowledge and skills for them to be able to successfully navigate an opportunity in governance.
When we think about governance, it's one of those concepts that's typically been left for our older people, our established leaders, our cultural leaders, our community leaders. But what we're finding is in such a different world, there's a need to bring a diversity of thinking. Innovation, entrepreneurship, strategic thinking, technology, and that's where our young people can walk in two worlds. One in this innovative space where they bring all this thinking, but also with this traditional grounding from the communities that they come from.
For me, why I've come on to Eke Poutama is really about how do I accelerate my learning so that I'm armed with the tools to be on governance, Māori governance boards, and actually be in a position where I can influence systemic level change.
For me, the ultimate goal is to be able to provide a program for young Māori, specifically youth, or even adults that are able to come along and learn about coding.
My driving factor is my whānau, so sharing everything that I'm learning here with my whānau to benefit them and everyone else.
Some of the key skills that we teach are first and foremost self-discovery. So in order to be resilient and capable, what is your emotional intelligence? What are your strengths? What are the areas that you need to work on? Your communication. And then we move into the more technical aspects of governance. So we look at, meetings, how are they run? Our roles and responsibilities. What is the role of a trustee or a governor? Strategic thinking and strategy, measuring and monitoring. So how do you ensure that your organisation is heading in the right direction? What are the kinds of risks that you might need to deal with? And again, communication. So how do you communicate as an individual, with others, and also how do you communicate to the beneficiaries that you are representing as well?
My basic understanding of governance was just a board that comprised of a chairman and a secretary and a treasurer. That was it. So I learnt the whole process.
It's been really great for me to fill up my kete and leave the wānanga, go home and actually try and implement these things actively. So it's not just kind of like, oh, that was interesting, but actually to say, okay, no, this is a tool, I need to apply it to make the change that I need, or the change that I wish to see.
Eke Poutama is quite an organic movement, co-created with our participants. No two programs look the same, but each of them have some core components. The first component is our wānanga, where we bring everyone together to share space over a weekend and to really dive into the critical concepts around governance, bring in guest speakers, bring in whānau, and bring in some real strong activities. We also integrate technology and have most of the touch points delivered online, where groups can come together, share knowledge.
One of the things from KUP that really stuck out for me was how we were all able to come together and give our little bits and pieces that we had in order to achieve a certain quest or in order to help someone come up with their answer, and how we were all able to just become a family in that one day of the first wānanga.
the cousins and the whānau and friends can be real innovative, but then there'll be one laugh or one mock in the room, and that's it. That's the end of that. Where little do they realise is that if they kept going, and then they put a strategic plan to it, you know, and they did the Mrs. and Mr. C's, and then they put, you know, their little twist on it, the 80-20 rule, you know, they put all these concepts in it, and they rearrange it to something that they understand, and then they use their Maori values, be staunch about who we are as people. Bro, little do they realise is that they've started something, and with all these tools that you learn from Eke Poutama for governance, for an organisation, this thing can turn out massive.
Let's start doing things in a way that actually focuses less on the compliance and less on the raru, and move to a place where it's about the strategy and the vision, because that's really what governance is about.
You were born for greatness, and don't ever let anybody tell you differently.